whether you're an artist or an industry professional. We have some wonderful guests here today. We all flew in from Spain, from different parts of Spain. Sitting to the right of me is Grace Puluczek, and right next to Grace, we have Damián Fernández. They will be giving a bit of an introduction about themselves in just a minute, but I thought I'd start the discussion off by giving a bit of an overview of the topic, and, well, a bit of a description of the music industry, its struggles, and the environment that artists and industry professionals have to navigate, and the role of education within this. Obviously, the music industry is a forever shifting landscape with many challenges, from new technologies causing disruption through to changes in consumer behavior. I mean, now, for example, you look at the resurgence and the purchase of physical media like vinyl, but then we can also look at the broader economic and geopolitical context that obviously influences a lot of things. So we can talk about the cost of touring crisis for independent artists. We can talk about the devaluation of independent or culturally relevant music through streaming and AI-generated content. Or, for example, if we look at the sync market, the dominance of library music as opposed to independent works. Library music has a much bigger share. And all of these are just a few examples of the challenges and circumstances that artists and industry experts will face as they enter this industry. And today we will discuss a bit of the role of education within this and how that can help us navigate this landscape. So now I'll hand it over to Grace first for a brief introduction, and then to Damián.
Well, first of all, don't forget to introduce yourself, Philipp. If not, I'm going to, show off about you. So.
Well, yeah. My name is Philipp. I work as a music curator and content coordinator at Movement. I also run a small imprint called Time Drift Records, where I work with the music of, well, lesser-known artists, mostly from the 70s and the 80s. But that's enough about me, because I'm the one who should be talking the least.
Well, it's equally as important, because this is a really good bridge on the conversation that we're going to have today, because Philipp actually graduated from Berklee, Valencia 2 years ago. So that's, we've got to keep the team together, right, on this panel. So I thought it would be really great to have Philipp moderating this session with you all. As he mentioned, my name is Grace Puluczek. I have 20 years marketing experience across several different industries. 8 years ago, I did the crazy thing of starting my own company in the music industry. I was probably similar to lots of you in this room thinking, how do I start? Who's out there to help me on that journey? So I was brave enough to start in artist management, and since then do several other different services, working on different projects, passionate about coming to events like this and delivering different workshops. And I think I just got so used to having the microphone in my hand, I thought, well, I better be a teacher then. So that's why I ended up 4 years ago at Berklee, Valencia. So there I'm full-time professor, teaching everything from artist as a startup. Funny coincidence, the title of this panel. Brands and partnerships, music marketing, artist management, and music supervision. So it was really frustrating in the listening session before. Everton was commenting on where I could imagine that track being placed, and I'm sitting there saying, I want to give my opinion as well. So yeah, that in a nutshell is a little bit about me, and a real ambassador and champion for, supporting the next wave of talent out there, be it through teaching, be it through mentoring. We all need a community around us, and I'm a strong believer in that.
Wow. Yeah, when I got invited by Grace to this, I thought I'm not a teacher. I haven't been in education at all. My company is called Indiemono. We started by doing playlisting on Spotify, just when Spotify started in Spain. But I come from a different background. I come from video games, so it was not my world. I had no education around that. So I had to learn as I started finding different challenges. At first, it was the playlisting part, which is such a crazy world now because it's a pretty saturated market. But back then, we had a lot of place to play and to grow our own playlists. So now we have a nice brand that is known in parts of the US and in parts of the independent industry. And we met that way, actually, because we had a connection with independent music to go into playlists. And then more things happened, and we started the label ourselves. So we have a small label which has no name. It's Indiemono, after all. And last year, after like 6 years going with the label, we founded Distromono, which is do-it-yourself for any artist to distribute their music. So it's 3 different phases in my life around music, and I had to educate myself, I guess, around that, to learn how to make a label, to learn how to manage playlists, and to now learn how to make a distribution for everyone. So yeah, that's more or less myself. I don't know.
Thank you so much for the lovely introduction. And as everyone can hear, we're in great hands for today's discussion. And we can already allude to points that we'll touch on later, which are the different pathways through education, whether that's formal education or more exploring what's online and using various resources. But before we get into that, I wanted to ask how you see the role of education evolving for artists and music professionals today, alluding to sort of the circumstances I described in this forever shifting landscape.
I think the situation we're in now is there's just such an information overload. So it's how do I filter all this content? What is relevant for me as a professional, be it either from a business professional standpoint or as an artist. It's how do I navigate around this space now with AI and so many different sources of information. And I think that's where the role of education comes in. That can be through formal education, like coming to Berklee Valencia, which you're all welcome. You just need to pay an awful lot for that program, unfortunately. But there are more economical solutions out there, and I'm happy to share a few of those after these sessions with you. So I think now it's just sort of about finding, before even going into the education space, seeing ourselves as, okay, what is our immediate community around us already of people that can help us and sort of show us the way? Who are our stakeholders that can support us moving forward? And that can be those advisory points for us or potential mentors. So I think we can look at education, we can take it from so many different standpoints, through a direct mentorship relationship or a professional education standpoint as well. It's about figuring the path that's relevant to the objectives all of you have set out in this room. I know that when I transferred from the video games sector, I was working for PlayStation for 8 years and wanted to take that step into this industry, it's very scary. So, a huge congratulations to you all for being at events like this and coming to panels like this. And I just thought, I can't work in this industry if I don't know the basics through a trusted source. And at that point, I decided to invest in just a simple online Berklee online course. which is why it's a fun fact, like full circle moment to then be actually teaching there just 3 years after that course. And, you know, you can spend around 1,500 euros and do like an online course of your topic. And that can either be composition oriented, it can be songwriter oriented, or it can even be down to music business. And that's what interested me most at the start, was like, if I want to be navigating this industry, I need to know the basics. I need to know who are the key stakeholders. What does a publisher do? What does actually an artist manager do? So this was a great course to at least give insights, and that's like a 3-month course. I think without that, I would have gone a bit blind into the industry. So you've got to be keen also about absorbing information. And even me to this very day, I'm just constantly learning. So education is really at the forefront of this industry and being curious about it. Sorry for the long answer.
So you mentioned, well, you're coming up on your 4th year of teaching at Berklee, and I was wondering if you could share a bit about the advantages of pursuing formal education, so a university degree, when it comes to things like music business.
So I think for me, it's an investment into your future network. It's not necessarily about the books or the theory or what you're going to learn in that classroom. It's the real life scenarios and assignments that, you know, education builds and provides you and makes those connections into the industry. I can say that on the program I'm currently teaching, which is the Masters in Global Entertainment and Music Business program, which lasts just for 1 year, a master's program, which is the one that Philipp graduated from 2 years ago. Just from that course alone, I can say I help at least 5 students every year get directly into their dream job or make the right connections to the right people. So I think for me, formal education is really about opening that first door to a world of contacts. And that for me is the most important thing that people can take away from, you know, more formal education, is access to a network. I mean, we bring over 50 guest speakers onto the campus in just 1 year. And they can be from the biggest festivals, the biggest record labels, down to more boutique ones. So everybody tends to find their lane. And I think when you want to learn about several different subjects at once, it also, education helps you find, what is my space? You know, am I more of a marketer? Am I more into digital marketing? Do I want to run my own label? Yes, I think that would be my main answer. It's access to the network.
As you mentioned before, though, all of this comes at quite the cost. Even if we look at scholarships and other options, at the end of the day, you're moving most likely to a different country, and there's a whole load of costs associated with that beyond tuition fees. So I think it'd be interesting for us to explore some other alternatives of how people can find credible, reliable, trustworthy sources to educate themselves on music business. And perhaps, Dam, you could talk us through a bit about your experience. I mean, you mentioned that you didn't pursue formal education, yet you're sitting here and you have 2 businesses. You have Indiemono, you have Distromono. Like, how did you go about building these and gathering the knowledge and filtering through all the noise? I mean, obviously it was a different time when you started, for example, Indiemono, but how did you go about this process to educate yourself about the music industry?
The main problem I find with these is that the information you can find is so quickly changing all the time. So you cannot really rely on buying an ebook about streaming, for example, because it's super time sensitive. So you have to find sources that first are not tainted by AI now, because the replication of information now, it's a problem. So there's no shortcuts, there's nothing that will make you huge in no time. So you have to take patience in learning how every branch of, like you said, every branch of the music industry works. Like there's streaming, there's licensing, there's syncs, there's a lot of information of everything, and maybe you have to specialize. So what I think you should do is to first understand the foundations of everything. If you have someone to learn from, is way better. But I would exemplify this with a new hobby that I'm starting now. I'm learning crochet, which is super fun and super good for the stress. And I found that at first, when I was trying to learn, I was checking YouTube videos, I was checking tutorials, and by myself, I could make just a bit of it. Like, I needed someone to show me the basics. So I guess, yeah, the best recommendation is to reach for people that it's that has something in the music industry, or a teacher or a course, just to have the foundations of everything and then build from that. Especially of the things that you love most, like things that really interest you. Like, I'm not particularly interested in the law part of the music industry, so I have someone to do that for me. But I'm super excited about distribution and learning everything new that is happening in DSPs. And so, yeah, you have to find your way by doing that, I think.
Well, clearly, mentorship and your network that you can draw on and rely on is also a very important factor besides theory and things that you can read in a book. And just as you mentioned, like, obviously you look at these books about the music industry and you see it's like the 8th or 9th edition. So that clearly alludes to how fast things are changing, even if it's only one additional chapter that's added on streaming or changed. But clearly, yeah, it's not very good for the environment to print that many books. But anyways, what I wanted to move on to next then is how can you build this creative network? I mean, I already think that many of you are on the right path. You're here at a conference with industry professionals, people to meet. There was just the exercise before, the little quick dating where you could meet many different industry professionals. But what advice do you have for someone to build their network, how to pitch themselves and to communicate and meet industry professionals?
So one main tip I'd definitely give you, and this was what I was saying in some of the speed meetings that I had, was, if I come and see your show tomorrow, what do you want me to say? What would be the one sentence I would say about that show to my friends after that experience? And I think being able to, either as an artist or industry professional, really know what your objectives are, what your strategy is, what your mid to long-term plan is, and really start building your brand. And that's something I'm really passionate about, is brand building and knowing how to tell an effective story. So you've got to sort of use these moments to start selling yourself, really. But the clearer, the better, is what I always say. So really use this time and do your research. I always say, when it's time to come to a showcase festival, make sure you've looked at that whole delegate database and pinpoint exactly those people that you want to meet. I mean, kudos to all the artists that have been sending emails to invite us to the shows, that have taken the time to personalize. This really does make the difference. And sometimes I'm on several panels which are about, in the music industry, is about what you know or who you know. And I'm very about the latter, even though I am in an education space, but it's through creating networking windows and pockets of those right contacts for the right people. I mean, Philipp's a great example of that. I got to have Philipp do the course of brands and partnerships with me, and there was a clear class, anything about music and fashion, that Philipp anticipated the next slide of content. And that's when I knew, a really ideal company for Philipp could be a company called Too Young, specialised in music supervision for fashion. Cut a long story short, where are you working now? Link to?
A subsidiary of Too Young. So thanks, Grace, for educating me on great employers in Barcelona.
But, it's about these, really taking advantage of these networking opportunities. And I think another advice I'd give to you all is, like, those relationships don't stop when the festival is over. It's all then about doing the necessary follow-up and using that as an advantage to maybe as a connector around a conversation that we may have had, because you never know what could potentially come out of these relationships that you're building right now. I mean, I got my job at Berklee because I met somebody at a conference and he said, "Oh, you worked in video games. Oh, you worked in partnerships." They're actually looking for a teacher on that exact same subject at Berklee. So that can happen over a glass of wine this evening, or it can happen during a show. It's really take advantage of those moments. And there we go.
Dam, do you have anything to add to that?
To that long-winded answer.
The thing is, I think there's a special kind of person, like you have the quality of that, of being super social. And there's also people like me who are super shy and super awkward to have networking sessions. So what I do is I reach out people, and this can be an advice as well. When you reach out other companies, try to make the messages you're doing a collaboration, that it's not a one-way direction. Like, I receive tons of messages from people that want to promote their music, but they're not really interested in what can happen together. They only want a place to promote their music, and that's it. And yeah, I'm definitely more interested in doing network that way, like collaborating with other labels to co-release music and all that. But yeah, I definitely know places like these really work for networking. I wish I went to more events like this, but I'm trying. So you should try to, because yeah, you'll find amazing people here.
Yeah, sometimes it can be tough to step out of your comfort zone, but it's worth it. Hey, it's my first time moderating a panel, and I'm here, and I think I'm doing well so far.
I think he's doing a good job now. Can we have a round of applause for Philipp, please?
Dam, I wanted to ask you regarding Indiemono and Distromono, the role of these platforms in empowering independent musicians.
Yeah, this is a really broad question, but the thing is, we come from an era of really dark music industry where everything is really complicated to understand. I think it's because they didn't want to share the secrets of everything, but now it's everything is more. It's becoming democratic to understand in every side of the music industry, and you can find really specialized brands from all the different branches, as we were talking about. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, of course. So I'm just wondering about the role. I mean, it's something you take pride in, is empowering independent musicians, and I also see an educational aspect to that.
Yeah.
With the blog posts that you share. And I was wondering if you could tell us a bit more about the process and of how you curate these. And again, we were talking that education can be expensive, but these blog posts are available for free. So how do you go about curating these, and maybe expand a bit on that process?
I was sorry. I was losing the focus of the question, but yeah, I'm getting to that then. So yeah, what we try to do, especially with the artists that we work with closely, which are not more than 30 of them, is to try to show them how the industry works and what they can find, what are bad deals when, for example, when they receive an offer for PR or management or whatever, they send it to us just for them to understand, even when it's a label reaching them out for a release. We try to make them understand how all this process work, and in a sense of trying to educate people that is not involved with us, we try to do this with blogs, and yeah, we're trying to, but it's such a broad world. We now we're at the stage where we're reaching out to specialists of the different sectors and try to get them to write for us or to have like small videos about what they do and whatever. And yeah.
What are the main topics you cover in these posts?
Especially release strategies, but also how to market their music in different ways that maybe are not that common. For example, now we're talking with a guy from Miami that is doing a whole site for their album, and it's linked to crypto. It's linked to making we try to give them a different perspective because everything is already done and written, and you can find a lot of information on Instagram. But we try to give them a bit of light on how they can be more prepared to confront any challenges.
Amazing. Well, Grace, I'd like to ask you then, what are 3 key things that an artist should consider to optimize their release strategy?
So for their release strategy, what I would say is, what's the story behind the music that you're releasing? And that is one of the top trends now in music marketing, is sort of seeing it as a long-term path as opposed to individual quick wins with singles. So definitely crafting a story around you, your identity and your values. Second, it's then having clear objectives, clear but obviously realistic ones as well. And sort of C would then be understanding your audience. You know, as Dan just mentioned, you know, we're not doing things like in a one direction focus. There's got to be some sort of exchange. So that would be my third tip there. What I did want to share with you all was some useful resources. Following, like when you're doing your research at home now, there's a fantastic mailing list that you can sign up to, and they've got an Instagram channel called Hype Drop Club. Anybody that's releasing music in the room should be subscribed to that channel. It's run by Karma Bertelsen, who is one of the directors of marketing at Fuga, another distribution company, and she basically shares all the insights on the different DSPs, social media trends, all the new features that you can access. So Hype Drop Club, definitely note that down to check that out, because as Dan mentioned earlier on, I may recommend you a book, but in 2 years' time, you know, the way things are done are totally out of date. I mean, in my music marketing class, I gave it this time last year. And right now, I've got to pretty much change all the slides because there's been so many advances, you know, when it comes to YouTube, Spotify, and all the different platforms. So it's, you know, understanding how to navigate that, and that I would recommend as a trusted source. Also for support on releases, obviously Indiemono, where you can submit your music for playlists. So you can select the theme. Doing some promotion for you there, no Dan. So indiemono.com would be another really good trusted source for you all.
Thank you. And be sure to check out all those fantastic sources. I mean, I had a browse of the Indiemono website, and there truly are some great pieces in the blog posts right there. If you could give one piece of advice for an emerging artist seeking to build a long-term, like, sustainable career in the industry, what would it be?
Just one.
Well, I mean, you can expand it, but let's start with one. You each get one, and then hopefully it's not the same advice.
You can start.
Mine would come back down to build a brand, build your legacy, know why you're unique versus other artists and what your USPs are, your unique selling points, what makes you stand out from a crowd.
Okay. Yeah, I would say make objectives that are realistic. Like, you cannot expect to be famous in a year, or like choose whatever you want to do. Like, set yourself to a goal, and then put a milestone on that, and after that, but realistic and little, if possible. Yeah.
but how do you go about setting realistic milestones? What's realistic?
So, in terms of streaming, for example, don't expect to be included in editorials until you're super big, because they care about the numbers. But do your Spotify pitch and your Apple Music pitch. I would say the recommendation is just be not expecting that much and focus on the fans. Yeah.
Grace, do you have any?
Yeah, I think what I would add there is, once you've built your brand, once you have your objectives and you start to build your strategy, especially if you want to maybe enter a new market, make sure you do enough research about that market that you want to enter as well before just going, performing a gig and coming back. Because that's just going to be wasting the time and money of yourself. And for those of you that are coming to see the show, you've got to really build this cohesive plan around that. And I think coming back to your milestone question, how can you be realistic? Well, it's understanding how much time it actually takes you to reach those goals. So if you're only just now releasing your first EP, as Dam said, you can't be expecting to be on an editorial playlist. Maybe the emerging playlist that some of the platforms have, but incorporate into those milestones the usage of all the platforms and tools that are out there, because you need to increase your chances from yourself, because nobody else is going to talk about your music if you don't talk about it yourselves.
And how can, this one's for you, Dan, how can an artist go about finding relevant independent playlists for placements? How does Indiemono help with that? And also externally, because you mentioned that it's unrealistic to expect to be placed in an editorial playlist. So how do you build yourself up to that?
It's becoming more complicated as time passes, because there's way more playlists now than ever, and I would suggest trusting playlists that are not charging money for submissions. But I know there's a huge world in places like Summit Hub where you can get the chance to be playlisted, which is not bad. Like, I'm not completely against that, but I would say start by reading to whom you're sending the music, like their philosophy around that, and check their playlist as well to see if there's like the vibe that you like and the quality you expect. That's pretty much it. But yeah, I would suggest trying on every possible channel that you can reach. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you for the advice. Since we're running towards the last 4 minutes of our discussion today, I wanted to open up the floor to any questions that we may have in the audience. Do we have a mic for the audience? If not, I will run around with the mic.
Hello, my name is Chris. I'm from Czech Republic, from the Czech band I Love You Honey Bunny. Thank you very much for your panel. Very insightful. I might want to follow up on the thing that you told us, that every market has their specifics. Since you both live in Spain, maybe is there something specific for the music market in Spain that could be beneficial for me to know as a Czech indie rock artist? Maybe we are like similar to Arctic Monkeys or Glass Animals. What would you tell me that there is like specific about your market then?
So I would say don't try and attack the festival space, because in Spain there is a high trend. I know there's 271 festivals that take place in Spain, and you will see the same names on every lineup. So sort of almost eliminate that from your mind in a way. There is, however, a really interesting network of like smaller live venues. But what I would say is sort of test the water from that perspective. So maybe do a more stripped back acoustic Arctic Monkeys sound where you can combine a Sofa Sounds gig, build up your audience, take them to the venue. From a media landscape as well, there are several blogs for independent musicians out there, and there's a very lively radio scene. So I'd say these are more the specifics about the industry. The majority of the shows you will either find in Madrid or in Barcelona. There are very last-minute ticket buyers, and they would rather spend on going out for dinner with their friends than sometimes on a concert. So it can be quite challenging to get people in the room. So I would say for anybody coming to Spain first, even find a local partner to build the industry for them, be it a consultant to introduce your project and present your project to others, or work with a PR partner to help promote your releases and build up that path. I actually worked with a band from Austria, and they wanted to grow in the Spanish market, and Spain was 6th for them on Spotify. But we managed to build a great story because the singer was actually from Barcelona. So we could build a link into that plan. So I took care of the spread the word about opportunities with quite an unrealistic goal of perform at Primavera Sound within 1 year. But we also worked in parallel with a PR partner, and I can tell you we got that opportunity. They did play at Primavera Sound, and they've now gone from, performing the first time they went on tour, we sold 20 tickets. Now they're selling out 400 tickets and playing in 5 different cities. So in a nutshell, it's a slow burner, the Spanish market. You've got to be really patient, and you've got to have a long-term strategy for it to make sense.
I think we have time for one more question.
Yeah, hello, I'm Veronica, also from Czech Republic.
Hi, Veronica.
I'm not an artist, but I'm a music professional. I'm a festival booker, and currently I've been trying to find a job in the music industry, like in Europe, and I have had a bit of a hard time with looking for opportunities. Do you maybe have any tips on maybe websites or something like that where to look for remote or hybrid jobs in the music industry in Europe, not only the UK or United States?
So LinkedIn is definitely a great space for the jobs when it comes to specifically festival focused. It depends whether you're looking for a paid job or more of an internship experience. So if you are at the internship experience phase, there are so many other showcase festivals that are looking for people to help them, support them setting up the festival. So that would definitely be the first place I'd look, is in the key territories where maybe you can offer something and start to build those opportunities. Because once one festival has you collaborating with them and says you work amazingly, then that's going to unlock other opportunities. So maybe it's more of an opportunity cost there to go in through a volunteer standpoint, but then the likelihood of so many of my friends then employing you for the next year and wanting you to come back if you've done a really good job, that's high. So it's another one of the slow burners, like the Spanish market. The same with working in live and the festival side of things.
Well, and I think we've come to the end according to the schedule. So thank you to everyone that attended. Thank you for both of your time today. This is, I believe, the last panel discussion in this section of the building, but there's more happening later on. And also don't forget to come back for the great concerts tonight. Do you have any last things you'd like to say, Grace?
No, thank you to everybody for joining the session. Can we have another round of applause for Philipp, please?